Hello, hello. Welcome to Art Tip Tuesday. I'm so glad you guys are here tonight. I'm so glad to be here tonight. And for the first time, I'm actually streaming to both Instagram and Facebook. So I just want to make sure I have it all set up right. Can you guys hear me okay? I think we're good. Cool. So, like I said, really glad you guys are here. And tonight we have some awesome questions to talk about and some really cool topics that we're going to cover that a bunch of you have been asking about. So I hope this is going to be super helpful. If you're new to me and my page, I'm Jen Brandon. I'm a professional oil painter of all things equine and canine, and I also help artists like you find that loose, expressive approach to painting and have it look good. So I'm assuming that's why you're here tonight. You're a fellow artist. You want some tips and tricks to be able to achieve that look that you've been wanting, and I have some insights for you to help you. All right, so let me try to get my phone set up here. There we go. We're golden. All right, well, you guys are jumping on here. Let's do something kind of different, a little bit fun. I hope you guys will introduce yourselves to me because, it's not totally cool for me to do all the talking and not get to know you as well. So tell me your name, where you're coming from, and let's do a little icebreaker. What is your biggest pet peeve? All right, biggest pet peeve. I want to know. I posted this earlier this week, and there are some great ones out there, like hilarious, the things you guys have to go through. It's intense. So, hey, I'm so glad you guys are here. Hey, Amber, nice to see you. And Melissa. Oh, so many fun faces here. Really cool. Cameron, my mom, and my husband's here. Oh, so much support. I love it. All right, well, while you're jumping on, post your name because sometimes your handles come up instead and it's hard to know what your first names are. And I just have a terrible memory with names. So first name and your biggest pet peeve, all right? I'll share with you mine really quick before we dive into the real artsy stuff. So forgive me, men, but my biggest pet peeve is when men will like twist and play with their mustache and it makes that little sound. Can't even handle it. Can't even handle it. So there you have it. That's a little look into me and my pet peeve. I want to know yours. Hey, Melissa from Ohio. Pulled horseshoes. Hey, from Texas, Oklahoma. So glad you guys are here. So fun, all over the place. I love it. Super fun. So as you're logging in here, welcome again to Art Tip Tuesday if you're just joining me. And I think I'm going to be fighting this phone this whole night. That's okay. All right, let's jump in. Well, you guys are introducing yourselves. I do want to hear... I want to hear some of these fun ones. Let's see. Ginny. Hey, Ginny. Good to see you. Ginny says SUVs when they take up 3 full parking spaces. Oh, yeah, that's the worst. Deb Hamby Studio said her biggest frustration, pet peeve, is hang-up points. Totally. Artists, I think, can understand that. Oh, we have some hilarious pet peeves here. People using their blinker when driving. Not using their blinker. I thought you meant when they leave it on like forever. Yeah, okay. Yeah, not using it. That's awful too. Totally with you on that. Retractable dog. Yes, retractable dog leashes. I'm sorry for those of you who love those. I think I'm with you on that one. Cool. Well, hey, Pam. I'm glad you guys are here. Pam, good to see you. So many friendly faces. This is so fun. I hope you brought with you like your favorite like fall beverage. I'm drinking an organic chai tea latte. It's delicious and it puts me in the very fall mood. And I have a feeling tonight's going to be a late night in the studio painting. So a little caffeine isn't that bad. All right. I want to jump into some questions that you guys have had this week and see if I can bring some insight to you about them. All right. So thanks for asking these great questions. If you guys have any questions for me or topics that you'd like me to cover on my Art Tip Tuesday lives, send them to me in a message. You can even jot them in the comments here. I'm here for you. All right. I want this to be a time that we can get to know each other a bit, and also that you can learn something that you've been struggling with art, so that you can take your technique to the next level. All right, I want to help you get there, but I need to know what you're struggling with, like what's hanging you up. I'd also love to know your wins. So if you're like, yes, that makes perfect sense, I gotcha, like this hits home for me, I know what you're talking about, and I had a win with that this week in my studio, I want to know so that I can celebrate with you, because let's all be in this together, right? Artists supporting artists. That's what it's all about. So yeah, let me know what topics you'd like me to cover, and also what questions you have about your specific artwork or struggles and hurdles that you want to overcome, because I want to help you. All right, cool. So let's see. Josie is asking, how long do your paintings usually take? And do you ever take breaks during your painting process? That's a really good question, Josie. Yes, to answer your first question, all different times. It takes me all different times for my paintings. So anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours for a small painting if I'm doing like an alla prima painting, or it may take 4 to 6 weeks on kind of the next level, still smaller painting. It may take me 4 to 6 months on one of my larger paintings. So there is not a one size fits all. In fact, the reference photo will make a big difference too. If it's a lousy reference photo that I have to work with, let's say it's a client's special photo, and so I need to work with what I have, that will take me longer because it doesn't have the information I necessarily need or want. So it really does depend how many subjects are in the painting. That will also increase the time as well. But that's a good question. And your other question is, do you ever take breaks during your painting? Always take breaks during my paintings. Occasionally, you'll get like crazy in that creative flow. You know the one I'm talking about, like the world doesn't exist. It's just you and your painting. It's like the most beautiful experience, right? That maybe I'll sink into that for like a 4-hour stretch or something like that. But usually I make it a habit to get up, leave my canvas, take a break. If you're talking about an extended break, sometimes I might leave my painting for maybe a week or 2 max, but I don't like to leave it too long because, I don't know, I feel like you kind of get in a groove with a painting. I also have multiple paintings going on at one time, so it's almost like a relationship with your painting. You know, you get to know it, you know where you're struggling, you know where you have to work, and you know what's like spot on. And then if you wait too long and you come back to it, you have to kind of reintroduce yourself, which is important. So yes, I take breaks, and it also gives you the option to work a little bit like wet into wet or dry into dry, and oils, you get to do both. So definitely take breaks with your work, whether it's 10 minutes, half an hour, or a day. It's important to take those breaks. Awesome. All right, so let's jump into another question here. Eliza, let's see, she's asking, you seem to work in layers. What is that process? Is it light to dark or dry in between or no? Okay, this is a good question. So Eliza, yes, one of the greatest beauties of oil paint is to be able to work wet into wet. I love to be able to create those soft edges with wet paint underneath and wet paint on top. And you can create that beautiful blending. Now, if you guys are followers of my work, you know I'm not a major blender. I don't love to over blend, but sometimes that really soft blended edge can add so much more dimension to your painting. You want a variety of edges, but that's a different rabbit hole. We'll go down that another time. All right. Hey, Mary and Joyce and Laura. Oh, it's so fun to see you guys here. I'm really glad you're joining me. Right now, we're just going over, if you're just jumping in, we're just going over some questions that you guys have sent me this week before we dive into the main topic of the night. So, all right, if you guys have questions or topics you'd like me to cover, please do so right in the comments or send me a message afterwards, because I would love to get to all of your questions. All right, let's see. We have another question here from Josie again, which is great. And let's see, you're asking, How do I stay loose? Okay, $1,000,000 question right here, right? You're asking the right questions. I love it. So we really could spend all night and all week and all month talking about this, which sounds great to me. I'd love to do that. You're talking my language here. But what I will say is I want you to go grab my free PDF. It's a painting guide on how to stay loose, all right? And it gives you like 3 great tips on how to start, how to stay loose, and when your painting is finished, right? Like 3 questions that really plague all of us as artists. And it's going to give you some great guidelines on how to achieve that, how to build confidence so that you know where you're going with your painting and you have some guidelines to follow to stay loose, but accurate. All right. So grab that guide. My hubby is, I think, on here live too. Jared, if you could just jot down the link to the free painting guide so everybody could grab that. If you haven't grabbed it yet, go get it. If you've already gotten it, take 10 minutes tonight to look it over. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and what maybe like hits home with you. So definitely check that out. There's a link right in the comments here. You should be able to grab that. And if for some reason you miss it, I will post it into my stories tonight so that you can get your free painting guide. If you still don't see it, message me. It's important you get this. You'll sign up on my email list. It's just for artists. And if you're not an artist and you're just curious, you are welcome to. You will get a bunch of information about art-specific topics, and we can welcome you to the team of artists here. So grab that link, and there we go. Josie, I will get more into that topic of how to paint loose and have it look good. All right. That brings me right into the question of the night. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything here from you guys. We have an extra question here from Melissa. What surface do you use most with your oils? Do you make them yourself? Okay, very good question. No, I don't make all my surfaces myself. Though I do have sort of a secret sauce that I like to prime my canvases with, especially my larger canvases. And maybe we can cover that another night. And maybe I will reserve that just for people on my mailing list. So you're going to want to definitely jump in there. And, but mostly I work on canvases that I purchase, and I like the thicker gallery wrapped canvases because I feel like they have just a nicer pull, like stretch to them. And also a favorite board of mine is, I think it's the Master Collection at Hobby Lobby. And it has a nice smooth finish. So you want the smooth finish, not the textured finish. The texture finish really kind of like sucks your paint in, and it can create a very frustrating painting time. So trust me, I've tried it and it is not fun. Unless you're going for maybe more palette knife look or something with a lot of texture. But this smooth surface is wonderful. It has just enough texture to create that friction with your brush, but it allows the paint to drip down really nicely. It's money. I love that painting board. So I think it's Master Collection at Hobby Lobby. I will try to find that link for you guys by next week. All right. Speaking of next week, last week, I promised to show you guys one of my favorite sketching brushes. This is for my my sketchbook, and it's a plein air painting brush. So it what am I trying to say here? It breaks down really small, which is awesome. So it fits in like my little sketch bag, you know. Oh, just smacked myself in the face. So I love this brush. It's from Rosemary and Company, and it's their dagger brush. All right. They're plein air. I think it's a watercolor dagger plein air painting brush. I highly recommend this. This is a beautiful brush, and I keep it with me at all times. If I travel, I keep it with me in a little sketchbook. It's really important. It gives you a beautiful flow. You can sketch with it. You can mass in your values and colors. It's a money brush. Definitely go get yourself one of those. Rosemary and Company online. It's a wonderful company. I highly recommend them. All right. we are going to dive into the question of the night. Are you ready? All right. So, how can I get my proportions right? I have had multiple questions from you guys regarding proportions and how to get them right and the frustrations you're going through to achieve this. Wouldn't it be great if we just knew every time we laid down a brushstroke that the proportion was going to be right, that we had the sketch all correct? Well, did you ever sit down to paint and you're like totally like in the zone, right? You focus in and then you focus in more and then you focus in more. Next thing you know, your face is like up to your canvas here and you're working with this tiny little brush and you think you have all the proportions correct. And then you stand back, you're about finished for the evening, you take your drink and you look at it and your heart sinks because you realize your proportions are totally off. Most likely, it just ended up being so large and out of whack with the rest of your piece because you were zoning in way too much. You weren't looking at the big picture, right? So sometimes we get into like this way too much tunnel vision and it throws the whole drawing and proportion out of whack. And it's an easy thing to do, right? I hear you. This frustration is real. But I've got 3 tips for you that are going to help you overcome that tendency and give you some really great guidelines to follow so that you can ensure that your proportions are correct along the way, all right? So now I want to preface this really quick before I dive into the first tip. All of this is surrounding building up your ability to paint loose and expressively, all right? So yes, you can create a very rendered, like anatomically correct, everything's perfect. That's not what we're talking about here tonight. But it's important in your loose painting approach to have correct proportions or else it doesn't read true, right? Anybody can paint loose and have it look like whatever, but you want to paint loose and have it look beautiful. You want it to resonate with your collectors. You want it to resonate with yourself so that you know that you painted loose, but it looks right. Okay, you have to have the right proportions to do that. So here is my first tip. All right, I like to start my paintings with like a crosshair grid. All right, just a little cross in the center and giving my horizontal and my vertical line. Do I recommend a full grid for your painting? No, I do not. Not if you're trying to paint loose, all right? Now, if you're going through some steps to learn, how to really get into the anatomy of something, or your whole purpose is to get maybe perspective, like spot on and everything, by all means, like use a grid. There's a lot to learn there. But what we're talking about tonight is how to be loose and expressive, but still have the right proportions. All right. So I use a crosshair grid at the beginning of my painting. This gives me my center point. So I know, let's say we're painting a dog. We have some pet portrait artists here, right? How many people are a pet portrait artist here? I see we have a couple people here. Hi. And we have, some friendly faces are popping in. Again, I see Mary and Bob Lisa. Hello. Melissa, again, cool. Melissa says, it's neat to hear you use a light grid. Encouraging. Yes, I use a grid. Very light grid though, mind you. One of my students actually was saying to another instructor, now I know somebody who uses a grid, and but again, please don't take this too seriously. I don't want you using a full grid because I think it's going to make you too tight, too uptight if you're trying to paint loose. All right, I have another little secret for you. While we're talking about the little like crosshair there. Oh, I'm jumping around here. Stick with me. If you're using that crosshair on your canvas, you want to make sure it's also on your reference. All right. It doesn't make sense if you don't have it on your reference. So the whole point is to be able to pinpoint, okay, that's my center point. Where is the focal point of my piece in regard to that? So let's say you're painting a dog. All right. And you found your center point on your canvas. Let's say this is your canvas here and you found your center point right here. And then you know that the dog's nose is kind of off center a little bit. So you can place the dog's nose there and like the eye line, and you're able to judge that according to your center spot on your canvas. All right, so you're able to really know that that is a foundational part to your painting and that it's correct. And then you build out from there. All right. Okay, so back to my other tip there. This is one of my favorite brushes here. I don't want you starting with this brush because it's tiny. In fact, I have paper towel on it. I'll tell you that secret in a different time. Remind me. But I actually was working on these 30 paintings in 30 days for a while. I think it went up to 44 paintings in 44 days. It was very intense, and I worked on a consistent size the whole time. They were 12 by 12 paintings. So it was like wasting ridiculous amount of time finding my center point every time. So I ended up putting, I don't know if you can see this, a little bit of Scotch tape right here. And I just knew that from the tip of my brush to the front of that Scotch tape was my 6-inch mark. So I knew that that was the center point to my painting. So I keep it loose. I don't use a ruler or anything. I'll just use my hand to create the little lines, and that will just set me up for success for the rest of the painting because I know that my starting point is spot on. So I'm curious, do any of you use a grid? Is it a full grid? And if so, do you feel like it helps or hinders your ability to paint loose? I am curious about that. I'd also like to know if it helps or hinders your proportions being correct. All right, so let me know in the comments. I really would like to hear. Now let's jump in. We're going to talk about the second tip I have for getting the correct proportions. All right, I'm going to take a little sip of my tea here while I catch up on some of your comments. Cool. Oh, I see where you guys are coming from. Awesome. All right, so my second tip for you is to use positive and negative space. All right. Is that new for anybody, the positive and negative space? If you're new to this, my hand, if that's the subject, that's the positive space. And the space between my fingers, that's the negative space. And you can see it creates like this triangular shape. That is what makes the puzzle piece of painting. All right, I'm going to show you an actual painting example of negative and positive space and how you can use it to make sure your proportions are correct. All right. All right. You might remember this guy from another live version here. So here we have some real obvious negative and positive space. Up by the ears here, we have this shape here, okay? That negative space between the ears, this beautiful negative space on the outside here, and then obviously the positive space of the dog. All right, so as long as you set up your reference in a way that imitates the painting you're working on, you want to have the same proportion, the same size, then you know the distance, you can see the distance from the edge of your canvas to your subject matter. All right, and that creates a negative shape. All right. So you can use that to make sure the proportions of your positive shape are correct. So you have your cross grid, all right, that helps you place like some of your foundational elements to your painting. You make those correct, and then you can build on them knowing that it's correct. And then you can kind of make sure that it's correct by checking your negative space as you draw, all right? You draw, you mass in, you want to make sure that those shapes are lining up, and it's going to be kind of obvious where it's messing up and not computing. So use that for back and forth, and that's how you can make sure that your proportions are correct while you're still painting loose. All right? All right, let's jump into the third tip. Now, this is really important. All right? So if you're off doing something right now, come back for a minute. I want you to hear this. This is so important. This third tip is going to help your proportions so much. You need to paint what you see, not what you think you see. Now, you may have heard that before. I hope you have. But sometimes we need to just remind ourselves of that again, because it's so easy to fall into that trap of, I know what a hand looks like. I can just draw this like this is. Or I know what a horse's head looks like, or a dog's nose. No, you don't. I'm going to just tell you, no, you don't, because you don't know exactly how that specific dog's nose is looking with that light. It really has nothing to do with the dog's nose. It has to do with the light in that particular image, how the light is shining on it, how it's casting shadows. Give yourself a break. Do not pretend you know it. Just look. You need to paint what you see. All right? You don't put so much pressure on yourself to know all this stuff. Just learn how to see and how to add that to your canvas or to your sketchbook. It's really more about practicing what you see and how you execute it onto the canvas. All right? It really takes so much pressure off of you. Otherwise, you have to master everything. Instead, you can just master how to see properly and how to portray it onto your canvas. All right, let's see. Rachel jumped in here. Cool, so glad to see you. And she's saying turning it upside down sometimes will help paint what you see. I love that. Yes, in fact, we've had students who are just getting so uptight about their proportions and everything being like absolutely perfect. We have made them flip their canvas upside down, and they ended up loving it. Loving doing it that way. It really helped them take a stand back. It helps you to stop seeing elements like nose, eyes, mouth, and instead just see the shapes, which is what you want to be seeing. You want to be translating the shapes, right? Yes, so cool. Rachel, I love that you just commented about that as well. Melissa says, yes, I agree. Paint what you see, not what you think. It's totally true. And yet sometimes it's so hard to remind ourselves of that when we're in it. Perspective also changes everything that you think you know about something. So while you may know that a hand looks like this, if I'm coming at you like this, that's a totally different story. So you just have to paint what you see and not what you think you see. So also, I want to let you know that it's really important to spend 80% of your time looking at your reference. All right, 80% of your time. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point. I want you staring at your reference so much and looking back at your painting and looking at your reference back and forth, because then you won't get that tunnel vision that locks you into something that's not accurate. Okay, so look at your reference, look at it often, look at it quickly, look at it for a long time, but definitely look at your reference. All right, cool. I forgot to mention earlier that I'm doing a giveaway tonight. You could win my giveaway. We are giving away a print from yours truly, and I'm going to show it to you here. This is a piece that is just filled with energy and some really cool texture in the background and really dramatic lighting. I enjoy this piece and I hope you do too. The more comments you have here, the better chance you have of winning. So if you weren't sure what to say or you don't have any questions that you can think of, tell me your name and your favorite fall beverage. All right, so jot that in the comments real quick, and I'm going to be picking a winner before we sign off here, and I will ship it to you for free. So let me know your name. Even if you have commented, tell me your name and your favorite fall beverage, and I would love to see that. All right, so I have one bonus for you here, a bonus step, a way to implement getting your proportions right. All right, this is really important. And I know we all don't have enough time, right? But we have time for the things that are important. So if it's important to you to be getting your proportions right and achieve that beautiful, loose, expressive painting approach, you have to practice. Now you want to practice the right way so that your time is worth it. And I want you to practice in your sketchbook. Grab a great sketchbook, grab a bunch of different materials. I want to get into these materials. Maybe we'll do this next week. Let me know if you'd like me to talk about my favorite sketch materials next week, and maybe we'll make that the main topic. And so grab some water pens, some brushes, some markers or pens. I'm going to say feel free to excuse your pencil right now because I think that's going to lock you into a tight sketch, and I want you to be committed and confident and loose. But here's the trick. You're going to do timed sketches, okay? You're going to do 2-minute sketches, 3-minute sketches, 5-minute sketches. You can work up to a 10-minute sketch, but I want you to do multiple 2 and 3 and 5-minute sketches. Try to do it every day for a week. In fact, join me, do it every day this week, and then send me some pictures of your sketches. I want to see your progress. I want to join you in this because I think you're going to your mind is going to be blown at how much progress you can make when you're timing your sketches, because then you can't get into that tunnel vision. You have to actually sketch the gesture. Now, this is like, we could get into this forever. I love this topic. Let's talk about this sometime. Maybe we can do a sketch night together. Let me know if that would be fun for you, because sketching loosely and gesturally can set you up to paint expressively, because you can learn how to get the right proportions through your sketches, especially if you grab that brush that I was talking about, right? So there you're learning how to paint with a brush, and you're also painting loose because it's timed, and you're having to look at your reference often because you only have a couple minutes to get those proportions correct. A little tip when you're working on these timed sketches, don't try to fit it all in. All right, you're not trying to fit it all in. You're trying to get the overall gesture of it. Maybe you hone into a certain section and try to get that gesture correct and form, but I don't want you getting into all the details of everything. The point is to not get into those details, but practice placing something on your canvas or on your sketchbook from something that you see. All right. All right. If you haven't grabbed your free painting guide yet, Jared just posted the link. Definitely check it out. 3 must-know tips for painters. You're going to find some great help in there. Trust me. I think you're going to want it, and I'd love to hear what you think about it. Just want to give you an example of some timed sketches really quick. All right, just using some pen. And over here, let's see, I can't see what I'm showing you here. Some pen and brush strokes. Now, I want to show you where I started, though. These were my early sketches. Not as lovely a sketch page, right? So you can definitely see. Give yourself some time to warm up. Give yourself a little grace. And don't be afraid to let the medium that you're using really flow, all right? So get to know your mediums and also enjoy learning how to get better success at these correct proportions by practicing. But you want to practice the right thing. Cool. There you have it. All right, I am going to pick a winner here. And then I have one more thing to tell you before you go. And the contest winner of this print is Lori Ketchum. Lori, are you still here? If Lori's still here, comment below. Definitely send me a DM so that I can get your address and send you your free print. I want to make sure you're here. Is Lori Ketchum still here? I hope you are. Congratulations on winning this art print. I hope you love it. So I can't wait to send that over to you. Cool. Well, before you guys leave, I just want to leave you with one thought. It's actually a quote. It's my favorite quote. My favorite art quote ever. It's written by Neil Gaiman, and it's this: go and make interesting mistakes. Make amazing mistakes. Make glorious and fantastic mistakes. Break rules. Leave the world more interesting for you being here. Make good art. Cool. Well, I want to leave you with that tonight, and I hope you go make a bunch of mistakes and have a blast doing it. And I can't wait to see you here next week for Art Tip Tuesday. See you guys later. Thanks for joining me.